Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Friday night live stream for studentloanjustice.org. My name is Alan Collins. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only grassroots group truly and totally and only fighting for student loan justice. We've been around for 17 years now. For the first 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for only the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. However, I'm now here to tell you that the lending system, fortunately or unfortunately, is failed. And quite frankly, the loans can and should and frankly will be canceled, hopefully by executive order. And that adds nothing to the national debt, requires no money from the Treasury. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on Facebook or Twitter, by all means, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. I'm happy to respond to them. We're happy to answer all the tough questions as well. Couple things before I forget. The petition is surging right now. We're up to around 1,100,000 and I think 20,000 signatures at this point. We added another 10 or 15,000 signatures today or the past 24 hours, which is great. I would ask everyone out there, if you care about this problem, please consider going to change.org/cancel student loans and boost the petition. It's where you pay change.org some money and they give you more page advertisement or something. It actually works. We get about a third of our signatures that way. The change.org people have been really good to us on this petition, by the way. They really deserve your support, at least nominally. So, but it helps a lot. As I said, we get about a third of our signatures that way. So please do that if you could. I'd like to build on this momentum. There's no good reason we can't have 10 or 15 or even more million signatures on our petition, seriously. And that would be just extraordinarily helpful. You know, it's we have a nuclear strong argument to make. We've got a massive muscle to flex, but you know, the more the merrier, guys. If we can get, I mean, we could theoretically have 35 million people on our petition. Seriously. My best estimate is that even before the pandemic, there was something like 42 million. Is that right? Yeah. No. Yes. I just wrote an article, so I should know this. By the way, if you go to our Medium site, you can see the article that I just wrote, and I should probably go to that article myself so that I could tell you for sure. Even before the pandemic, there were probably around 42 million distressed student loan borrowers out there. So in total, I think there was like around 57 million federal and private student loan borrowers and cosigners, and 75% of them, aka 42 million people, were losing sleep over their student loans. This is by far and away the largest untethered voting block in U.S. history. So yeah, go to our Medium thing and look at the article at the very top, and you'll see the numbers as best as we can discern them as far as how big this voting block actually is. It's quite astonishing. So there's that. Also, I would urge everyone to go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, and do a month at least worth of our daily actions. Our opposition is obviously freaked the F out right now. They are coming all guns a-blazing against us. And there's two main things that they're saying right now. Number one, canceling student loans will benefit the wealthy. Number two, canceling student loans will exacerbate inflation. And both of those are provably false. First of all, the overwhelming majority of student loans are held by people who are in the bottom 80% income bracket. So compare that to, say, PPP loans, which don't need to be repaid, and all added to the national debt, by the way. That was very expensive. But PPP loans, the highest 20%, or maybe I should say the bottom 80% of earners, got only 25% of those PPP loans. So wealthy people, $100,000 a year or more income, got 75% of those PPP loans. So if people were bitching about canceling student loans, where were they when we were throwing trillions out in these PPP loans. Student loans can be canceled without adding a penny to the national debt, without needing a dime from the Treasury. Taxpayers paid for these loans many years ago, and they made a lot of money on this lending scam. And it is a scam. It's the most viciously predatory, unconstitutional lending scam in our nation's history. And the loans can be canceled for almost for free. Like, on balance, the taxpayers are probably breaking about even. And that's maybe a third thing that that our critics say. They say, why should the taxpayers pay for your loans? No. The taxpayers have made a killing on this lending system, particularly since Obama federalized in 2010. They've been booking upwards of $50 billion in profit a year on this lending scam. So on balance, the loans can be canceled tomorrow for free with no congressional approval required, no congressional appropriation required, not one dime of money from the Treasury needed, and not even a penny added to the national debt. You can't say that about any other stimulus that we've seen. So yeah, our opposition in the swamp, by and large, hates this whole concept because they don't get paid and they love this lending system, which fortunately or unfortunately for them, is failed. It's catastrophically, galactically failed. Even before the pandemic, nearly 2/3 of all borrowers were not making payments on their loans. So what is that? It's a failed lending system. So hey, if we have any comments, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, I already said that. By all means, throw your comments out, and I'm happy to respond to them. So much is happening, guys. Like, it's just crazy. We're seeing a relentless, brutal, system-wide, internet-wide attack by our opposition. And this comes in many forms. Like, many articles were written yesterday, many articles were written today. And frankly, it's a little bit overwhelming, but the good news is we got this, guys. We got this. Canceling student loans will not benefit the wealthy. Go to bit.ly/won't-help-rich. See why that's true. I already just kind of told you why. Also, canceling student loans will not exacerbate inflation. That's crazy. Canceling student loans would lead to a return of roughly $400 extra a month in the pockets of student loan borrowers. But inflation running at 8.5% a year right now, it gives an increase in monthly household expense for the average household, 2.5 people, of $500. So canceling student loans won't even allow people to buy the stuff that they're already buying, but they paid less for a year ago. It's not going to exacerbate inflation, guys. It is not. It's just not. And by the way, the inflation we're seeing today is supply driven, not demand driven. So yeah, guys, we got this. But the opposition is tough. They've got money, they've got resources, they've got all these different media outlets that, for whatever reason, publish their crap over and over and over again, happily. But hey, Luis Perez is here tonight. Luis says the Higher Education Act does not grant the president or the Education Department the authority to cancel loans. Luis, you're absolutely wrong. I don't think you've ever read that law. But if you did read that law, and in fact, if you go back even to a public law, 1958, which is the source language for the Higher Education Act of 1965, you will see plainly and clearly that the Secretary of Education is given by Congress the power to without limit, waive, compromise, or release the federal government's interest in loans that it owns. And the federal government owns around 90% of all student debt in this country, a little bit less. So, and unfortunately, we're not talking about canceling the FFELP loans, which are owned privately, or canceling private loans, which are owned privately. We're talking about federal student loans. And indeed, the Secretary has all, and by extension, the President has all the authority they need to, without limit, what I said, cancel, waive, release, compromise, waive, release student loans. And by the way, the president has exercised this authority many times. Every time Joe Biden extends the repayment pause, that is exercising this broad authority to cancel debt. And even going back many years, the secretary has compromised and otherwise waived and released many loans in many different circumstances. And nobody was bitching about it then. Nobody should bitch about it now. The law is clear. So you can repeat your comment, Lewis, but that doesn't make it any less false, unfortunately, or actually, fortunately. And by the way, think about it, guys. The federal, our opposition that's trying to pump this bogus argument that the president doesn't have the power. According to those people, the only way to cancel loans is by passing legislation through Congress, which, because of the PAYGO rules, means that to cancel $1.6 trillion in federal student loan debt, Congress would have to raise $1.6 trillion, raise taxes, steal from other existing programs. Who knows how they would have to come up with the money, but they would have to pay for it. Now think about that. That's the stupidest thing in the world. The federal government made these loans or bought these loans many years ago. They paid for and bought these loans many years ago. They own the loans. There is absolutely no good reason that the taxpayers, who I'm a taxpayer, by the way, all of us are taxpayers, no good reason for us to have to pay an additional $1.6 trillion to cancel loans that we already own. They can be canceled administratively, as they have been done many times and for years, including in this pandemic, including by President Biden. So that's not an argument. Sure, people may sue. There's going to be some controversy when it happens. People may sue. They will lose, though, because the law on this is clear. And I urge you all to look at the Higher Education Act as amended and look at the law for yourself. And look at any of the expert arguments for it or against it. There are no formal arguments that I've seen against that power, but for one memo written by a lawyer at the Department of Education in the waning days of the Trump presidency. And that memo was so bad. It was so embarrassingly bad and just obviously weak. The Department of Education took that memo down shortly after they put it up, and I've never seen that before. So we got this, guys. Don't even trip. The loans, and no matter what happens in Washington, D.C., guys, the loans will not be paid. The loans will be canceled. And there's not one thing that I or you or anyone, any reporter, any writer, any politician, even, all the richest people in the world probably combined, there's nothing that they could do to change the fact that this lending system is done. It's toast. Way less than half of the people were paying before the pandemic. I would be stunned if even 20% of the borrowers resume paying on their loans when the pandemic is over and when they try and start this lending system up again. Yep. Sorry about that, Lewis. I know that's a counterpoint that's being lodged against us quite expansively. But that's the swamp talking, buddy. You're just parroting talking points from the lawyers in and around the Department of Education. And, the reason they don't, first of all, Department of Education has never, ever, does not now, and will never like canceling loans, even when they kind of have to through things like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. They do everything in their power to not cancel loans. And if they're going to cancel loans, they want to at least be paid for it. If they're going to cancel $1 billion in student loans, they would like to be paid $1 billion by the taxpayers. It's the institutional culture of the Department of Education. Their kryptonite, their worst nightmare, is having to cancel student loans and not getting paid for it. The Department of Education wants to sit on that $1.6 trillion fiat mountain. They want to make it a real mountain of hard currency. So if somebody tells them to cancel $1.6 trillion, They want to be paid 1.6 trillion, and that's just stupid for the reasons that I said. Lewis again says, how did we go from returning bankruptcy protections to canceling student loans? Well, it's pretty obvious, Lewis. Around shortly before the pandemic happened, I talked to people like Wayne Johnson, who ran the federal lending program under President Trump. And even before that, even Betsy DeVos said that 75% of all borrowers were underwater on their loans. And that's like a year or more before the pandemic. So Wayne told me that that was closer to 80% of all borrowers were either not paying at all, or they were paying, but had increasing loan balances before the pandemic. So it's probably only gotten worse. So that's what is that is a catastrophically, galactically failed lending system. We still need bankruptcy rights back. And the most important policy point I'll make tonight is we probably are not going to see meaningful, formal student loan cancellation from President Biden that's at all meaningful until and unless we get the threat of bankruptcy returned to us. And so I'm glad you asked, Lewis. That's actually a very important point. There's a bill in the Senate right now, S-2598. We've got to fight for that bill. If you forget everything I said tonight, remember, go to our website and do at least a month worth of our daily actions. 80% of our daily actions are geared towards pushing S-2598. It will return bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. And guys, I'm here to tell you, until we have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side, whether you would ever or never file, we're not going to see meaningful loan cancellation from Joe Biden. It's not in his DNA to do that. And the Department of Education, what I said earlier, sure, Joe Biden could call a press conference tomorrow and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cancel up to $50,000 in student loans. And that would ultimately wind up being almost nothing for almost everyone. You get $3,000, you get $13,000, you get nothing because you're in default. You get nothing because you earn too much. This is what the Department of Education does. 99% rejection rate of all disqualification rate of all the quote unquote forgiveness programs that we've seen since the mid 90s. That's what we're going to see from Biden as long as the threat, the leverage that bankruptcy provides us is gone. As long as we're naked and vulnerable and defenseless, and we don't at least have that toothpick of power that is bankruptcy and the threat of bankruptcy on our side, all we're going to see is nonsense from Washington, D.C. And that's probably the most important lesson we've learned over many years of observing this lending system. So, yep. So we have a bunch of comments here. Let's see if I can just quickly go through them here. Okay. Yeah, we've already been through all that, Lewis. Student loan companies will sue. Yeah, they can sue. Sure, they can sue, and they can lose, which they will, because the law is clear. And as I said, regardless of how all that goes, Lewis, almost nobody's ever going to pay on their federal student loans again. The lending system is becoming one large national joke. It's disappearing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak. People have had 2 years, and if even before the pandemic, 80% of the borrowers were never going to be able to pay, over 2 years of not paying, that means that almost no one will resume paying when they try and turn the lending system back on. So the lending system is toast, and that's kind of the last word. Like, whatever you think about that, it's just kind of a fact. Lewis is making some strongly partisan comments, and that's fine. So you know, ladies and gentlemen, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. If you're Republican, you're very welcome here. If you're a Democrat, you're very welcome here. If you're a socialist or a libertarian or a green or a know-nothing party, you're very welcomed here. What we do ask, though, is that you keep your comments related to student loans. So don't talk about immigration, abortion, anything else other than student loans. Our political and cultural and ethnic and every other kind of thing, diversity is our greatest strength. You know, this is a woman's problem, you can say. 2/3 of the debt's held by women. It's an African-American problem. African-Americans are hurt far worse than average by these loans. This is a veterans problem. Veterans are being wrecked. This is a red state problem. the worst 10 states in the nation on student loan debt, as far as debt versus the average wages in those states, the worst 10 states are all deeply red southern states. It's like a fist from Florida to North Carolina to Missouri to Louisiana, and that whole box, everything in between there. Those are the 10 worst states. And I see that we are still talking about the nuts and bolts of cancellation. I've already been through that, guys. I'm not going to go through it again. Martha Monroe, how are you, Martha? Good on you. She says, if they have the money to aid countries, they can help us. Yeah, we just got done throwing trillions of dollars out into the country in the form of PPP loans and all these other stimulus. We throw, $7 trillion into the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001. But, unlike all of those things, federal student loans can be canceled again with no money needed from the Treasury, not a dime. In fact, no money even changes hands, not one penny added to the national debt. So if you want to talk about fiscal economic stimulus, by far and away, this is the lowest hanging fruit on the tree. It's the easiest, quickest, cheapest way to stimulate the economy. And by the way, it will not exacerbate inflation, like I said earlier. bit.ly/won't cause inflation, all lowercase, one word. Look it up. Okay, more comments. Here we go. More little tit for tat between Ed and Lewis, I see, and Ed is right. The government owns 87% of all student loan debt. And believe it or not, the government actually owns, I think, around half or maybe even a little more of the older style FFELP loans. So if you have FFELP loans, there is a chance that the government owns your loans. So your loans are cancelable by executive order. Hey, Leslie Fishman says this is a national problem, and indeed it is. So we got this, guys, but I'm telling you, we need your help bad right now. Our opposition, I thought they had cranked it up to 11 last week, but they found a new 11 this week. Like Wednesday just kicked my ass. Yesterday was bad. Today was as bad as Wednesday. It's like nonstop. Oh, a couple other announcements. If you live in Georgia near Atlanta and you want to be interviewed and you have a compelling student loan story, let me know. You can PM me here. You can email me at Alan, ALAN, at studentloanjustice.org. Also, if you live in New York and you'd like to be interviewed, or if you live in Washington, D.C. and you'd like to be interviewed, and if you have a compelling story to tell, again, same thing. Send me an email, Alan, ALAN, at studentloanjustice.org. These are very credible and some of them very prominent news organizations that are looking for people. If you contact me, include basic information like what your email address, your phone number, where you live, but probably more importantly, how much roughly you originally borrowed, how much roughly you've repaid, and how much roughly, or exactly if you know, how much they now claim that you still owe. Those are the three things that are quite important just to give an accurate picture for me to send out to these news organizations. Leslie Fishman says, it's been a roller coaster. Yeah, no doubt, Leslie. Buckle your seatbelts, by the way. Buckle your seatbelts and put on your boots because the BS is getting thick. Let me tell you, our opposition is worried, like frantic, I would say. It's kind of hard to watch. But, Martha says everyone should be helping if they want it to end. And that's exactly right, Martha. We're a grassroots group. We don't have a marketing department. We don't have a budget to speak of. We don't have staff. We don't have any of that stuff, guys. All we have are normal people. And that means that you sitting there have got to help. Martha, and I'm not sure about Luis, but certainly Ed, they've been helping. Ed is our supreme co-leader, by the way. And everybody else I see on the chat, they've been helping every day. It doesn't take much. Our daily actions go quick. They take like 30 seconds to do if you have a Twitter account. We have a massive muscle to flex, ladies and gentlemen, but that is only going to matter when you sitting there help us flex it. The one thing we've learned over 17 years is that when you sit there and watch and wait and worry and wring your hands and hope and expect that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, it never happens. This is not a watch it happen proposition here, guys. This is a make it happen movement. Nothing happens unless you get off your ass. You're not better than us. We're not here to entertain you. These are your student loans. This is your problem. And if you want this problem gone, then you got to do your part. And that's just the way it goes, the way it is, the way it's always been in probably world history. If you ever want anything good to happen, then you have to fight for it. And, we've got a huge muscle to flex, but on any given day, I'm telling you, less than probably, say at the most, maybe a couple thousand people are doing anything. We need way more people, way more to be doing at least our daily actions. That's like the least that you could do. And we've got smart people on this group, guys. I know. We've got smart, intelligent, clever, creative people on this group. And you sitting there could easily do other things way beyond our daily actions that would help tremendously. Like coming after governors like Ron DeSantis, that asshole, who's been taking student loan swamp talking points and regurgitating them recently, which is very off-putting. If we can get even one Republican governor to call on the president to, at a minimum, return bankruptcy protections to the loans, that is everything. That's just massively meaningful. By the way, one thing I didn't say is, guys, when we get our bankruptcy protections back, the federal government's going to kind of have to cancel loans. I mean, they're going to have to at least administer their crap, their programs with a minimum of good faith. So rather than disqualifying 99% of the people out of public service loan forgiveness, they would kind of have to approve 99% of the people, because it's kind of like that or bankruptcy, right? It's a good reason the founding fathers called for bankruptcy in the Constitution. Ahead of the power to declare war, head of the power to raise an army, head of the power to build a navy, head of the power to coin currency, many other very important things. So when we get our bankruptcy rights back, guys, that's pretty much game over. We win. And until that happens, we're going to see nothing but fake loan cancellation. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting far too old for this shit. We've been doing this for 17 years now, guys. I'm ready to be done. Are you not ready to be done? I'm ready to be done. And so this is an unbroken story. Over half of student loan borrowers are over the age of 35. People over the age of 50, now here today, as I'm talking to you right now, people over the age of 50 outnumber people under the age of 25 with student loan debt. And on average, they owe 300% more, despite 50-plus-year-old people having borrowed way less than what's being borrowed today. So that's a very important point. I would love to get that fact into the eyeballs of people like Ron DeSantis in Florida and Governor Doug Ducey of Arizona, right? Like lots of retired people in those states. They should be on our side. Ron DeSantis is not. He was wagging his finger at the borrowers the last I checked. That should change. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group. The argument that we make is a very conservative argument, believe it or not. The only reason that I don't know why we seem to be trapped in this partisan divide. We are literally, and this is the most optimistic, hopefully encouraging thing that I will say tonight, we are the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. I just crunched the numbers. Oh, I think I may have gotten distracted to finish that thought earlier. But I just ran the numbers, and there's around 56 million student loan borrowers and cosigners in the country. 75% of them or something like 42 or 3 million were distressed on their loans even before the pandemic. 43 million distressed student loan borrowers. And so think about that for a minute. You know, when Trump won the presidency in 2016, I think he won with around, if I'm not mistaken, 63 million votes. Well, we've got 43 million people who are losing sleep over their student loans as we speak. That's nearly enough people to elect a president outright. So think about that. And let me just make sure that those numbers I said are correct, because I literally just crunched the numbers. They just published this thing. Oh, one more action item for you now while I'm thinking about it. You can do this right now. Go to our Medium platform, studentloanjustice.medium.com, and read that first article at the very top. It's called Student Loan Borrowers, the Largest Untethered Voting Bloc in U.S. History. Clap for that article. Go down to the bottom of the page, clap. It's a little hand thing. Clap. Push that like 50 times. You can clap up to 50 times. So do that. That will help. But more than that, get this article everywhere, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all the various platforms. Shove it in the faces of news organizations. Maybe your local newspaper, maybe your local radio station, maybe your local radio station, whatever, your local stuff, newspapers, radio, news, television, news stations. Also, send it to some national news organizations or people who work for those organizations. This is a very big thing, guys. And I am just baffled. Why are both the Democrats and Republicans doing everything they can right now to either demoralize us or infuriate us? Like, it seems to me like the Democrats are, especially President Biden, are doing everything they can do to de-energize, demotivate us. Like, he promised the sun and the moon before the election. Now he's like, oh yeah, that whole thing I said about canceling your loans if you earn less than $125,000 or less, you went to public college. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So that's the Democrats. And the Republicans are sitting there going, oh, these are all a bunch of young doctors and lawyers, and it'll benefit the rich, which I already said it won't. bit.ly/won't help rich. So help us with this Medium thing, studentloanjustice.medium.com, and get that article we just published in front of everybody you can possibly think of. Also, follow us on Twitter. It's Student Loan Just #1. And I think that's should be on the screen now. Oh, maybe not. Student Loan Just #1 on Twitter. Follow us, and you'll see, hopefully near the top, I posted that article. Quote tweet that thing to as many news organizations, or be creative, be clever. Get it to news organizations. That's great. Get it to celebrities, get it to politicians, get it to members of Congress, send it to your governor, send it wherever you can, do whatever you can do. Because guys, this group is way more important than you think. To the best of my knowledge, we're the only group right now that's making a formal argument for why canceling student loans will not exacerbate inflation. We're one of maybe 2 or 3 groups I've seen making an argument, and ours is the strongest, by the way, why canceling student loans will not benefit the wealthy. It will benefit the unwealthy. These are very important public discourse points that right now our opposition is trying to win by overwhelming the zeitgeist with their nonsense. And the only way we can compete with that I can think of is by getting these articles that we wrote around. And that's only going to happen when you make it happen. Word of mouth is the only thing that we have, guys. All we have is us. We don't have any of the stuff that any of the other big guys have, any of that. All we have is us. We're all we've got. But at the same time, folks, we're really all we need. You know, this group is way more important than you might think, if I may say so. We would not have a bankruptcy bill, S-2598, to fight for, but for the people on this group who've been doing the work. And it's not a huge amount of work, but it's work. We would probably not be even talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for the petition that we started way before almost anybody was talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. That all started here, guys. And I'm quite happy about that. Actually, nobody really seems to know it or care, but it is the truth, guys. We, you, me, Ed, everybody else, we are the pioneers, like it or not. And I know most of us, in fact, probably all of us are accidental activists, as I am, but we are the pioneers nonetheless, and you cannot unhear that. We need your help. I want these loans gone, by the way. We're not trying to build an empire here. We're not trying to. I would gladly take this banner behind me and throw it in the garbage can when we finally get these loans gone. I want them gone. It's all we've ever been trying to do is solve this problem. We don't do secret deals with shady people. We're not trying to make money off of this, nothing like that. That's nonsense. We decided many years ago not to do dirty deals with dirty people, not to need or want or take money from bad people. So we don't do that. And that allows me to say what I fucking want, which is nice. And that will always be true. And I hope you can appreciate that fact. But at the same time, as I said, there's a responsibility that comes with that, guys. We need you here fighting with us. We need you to go to our website, do our daily actions. We need you to join your state chapter group and help get it going. And you can find it through the website. We need you doing a million things and sitting around worrying, watching, waiting, reading Forbes magazine, which is terrible, by the way. That's not going to get it done. The bad guys, they want you doing nothing. They want you walking around with your tail in between your legs, afraid, scared, and doing nothing. Don't give them the pleasure. These are your loans. This is your problem. You've got to own this. And don't believe any of the other groups out there. I know there's some really bad, corrupted groups out there, by the way, and they will tell you, "Oh no, just sit back, relax. We got this. You don't have to do a thing. Just sit here for a while, and maybe talk to one of our debt coaches, and they'd love to sign you up on something or another and make money from your ass." Yeah, no, that's our opposition, guys. Those people, the last thing those people want is to see the student loan problem actually solved. You should run away from those assholes. All they're doing is holding you hostages, and they're mesmerizing you into inaction. And I'm going to tell you, this lending system will win if you don't act, because these are your loans, and this is your problem. And quite frankly, if you have no intention of getting out there and maybe getting your knuckles a little bloody, well, then you can just leave. You can leave because we don't want you here. You're wasting our time. You're wasting your own time. And quite frankly, I'm sick of all that, as I know Ed is, and pretty much everybody else I can see on the chat here. You know, we've got some very good people in this group doing the not necessarily hard, but very important effort that we need. And it's simple stuff most of the time. And if you're not doing that, we pretty much don't want you here, because just go. So anyways, I'm more optimistic than I've ever been, guys. The fact that our opposition is freaking out so badly right now is a very good sign. But we've got to match that. We've got to fight fire with fire, guys. They will overwhelm us and baffle us with bullshit if we let them. Take it personally, because it is personal. This is your life that these people are screwing around with. And we don't have to take it. The founding fathers are on our side. The Constitution's on our side. Tens, hundreds, maybe even of millions of people, even particularly the people who may not even be born yet, are on our side. So whether they know it or not, 44 other million people in the country out of the 45 million borrowers should be on our side, and they would be if they knew about us. But again, it starts with you. Spread the word. Spread the word about this group. Spread the word about our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. Tell everybody you know. Because as long as you sit there and you are quiet and you take it and you think that somebody else is going to do your work for you, it will never happen. So Anyways, guys, have a good weekend. I'll be back on Sunday night. Things are happening very fast right now, unprecedentedly fast. Things are changing day by day, hour by hour. So we need you here with us fighting. You can't unhear that. As I once heard in typing class in high school, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. And that is, as corny as it may sound, that's actually very true, guys. We're fighting not only for ourselves. If they can do to other loans what they did to student loans by ripping away bankruptcy protections, ripping away statutes of limitations and other consumer protections, they can turn this entire country into a slave state. John Adams once said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. And that is the gun barrel that we are looking down with our eyes into right now. They can do this to student loans. They can do it to any other kind of loan, medical debt, credit cards, etc. So this is the camel's nose under the tent. We cannot let this stand. We've got to fight. This is a very serious battle. This is your life, your livelihood on the line here, guys. You can't unhear that. So go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, daily actions, do a month worth. And hopefully I'll have some very good news to report here by Monday, I am hoping, with our legislation. Don't know what else to say, guys. I'll see you on Monday. I will see you on Sunday and Monday. Ed will be back on Tuesday. Get ready to fight, guys. It's only going to get a little harder from here, but still it's not that hard, but you've got to help. You've got to help. So, all right, guys, good luck. Have a great weekend. Godspeed. God bless everybody.